Mississippi River, this is also incredible, has hit historic low levels due to the current drought.
Something is happening to the Mississippi River that should not be possible. In Lake City, witnesses describe hundreds of dead fish floating on the surface. Biologists confirm mass die-offs during sudden warm spells. Barges are running lighter loads. Supply chains are slowing. Tourism is shrinking, and gauges across the river system are flashing numbers engineers have never seen before. Water levels have dropped to historic lows. But this isn't just drought. Right now, nearly half of America's most important river appears to be vanishing, not evaporating, not being diverted, simply disappearing. Between Illinois and the Gulf of Mexico, monitoring stations show a loss so large it breaks the basic math of hydrology. Scientists aren't just puzzled, they're alarmed, because 18 million Americans rely on this river for drinking water, and no one can fully explain where it's going. To understand what's happening, we need to understand what the Mississippi really is, and how we quietly transformed it. Chapter 1. The Artery of a Continent. The Mississippi River is not just a river. It is the drainage system for 41% of the continental United States. Water from 31 states and 2 Canadian provinces funnels into this single channel. Every year, more than 500 cubic kilometers of water pass through it, making it one of the largest river systems on Earth. Think of it less as a river and more as an artery. For centuries, it pulsed predictably. Seasonal floods, dry spells, patterns engineers learned to trust. Entire economies were built on that trust. Over 500 million tons of cargo move down this river every year. More than 90% of U.S. agricultural exports rely on it. One barge tow can replace nearly 900 semi-trucks. The Mississippi doesn't just move water, it moves food, fuel, chemicals, and power. But something has changed. Upstream gauges show normal flow. Downstream gauges show catastrophic decline. The difference between those readings exceeds the entire annual flow of the Colorado River, and no one can find where the missing water went. Chapter 2. The disaster that changed everything. To understand the problem, we have to go back nearly a century. In 1927, the Mississippi River unleashed the most devastating flood in American history. Over 27,000 square miles were submerged. Hundreds died. More than 500,000 people were displaced. The response reshaped the river forever. Congress passed the Flood Control Act of 1928, handing full authority to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. What followed was the largest river control system ever built. Thousands of miles of levees, dams, locks, dredged channels, and concrete embankments. And it worked. Floods were tamed. Navigation became reliable. The wild river was turned into infrastructure. But rivers are not machines. And success came with consequences no one anticipated. Chapter 3. What happens when you cage a river? When you imprison a river between walls, you change its physics. Confined water flows faster. Faster water scours deeper. And when a river is cut off from its floodplain, it loses the sediment that once rebuilt its bed. For decades, the Mississippi began digging downward into itself. At the same time, massive dams on tributaries, especially the Missouri River, trapped hundreds of millions of tons of sediment upstream. The lower Mississippi was starved of the material it needed to stay stable. Engineers noticed strange discrepancies. Water entering the system upstream wasn't arriving downstream. Month after month, the gap widened. Sensors were checked, instruments recalibrated, diversions investigated. Nothing explained it, so scientists looked beneath the river. Chapter 4. The riverbed that turned into a sponge core. Samples revealed something shocking. The Mississippi's riverbed had lost its natural layering. The clay barriers that once prevented water from draining downward were gone. In their place was a highly permeable mix, more like a sponge than a sealed channel. Decades of erosion had destroyed the stratification that kept the river flowing horizontally. At the same time, another force was pulling from below. The Mississippi Valley Alluvial Aquifer, one of America's most important groundwater reserves, has been depleted for decades by intensive agriculture. In some areas, groundwater levels have dropped by dozens of feet. This created a powerful pressure difference. Water flows from high pressure to low pressure, and now the river was sitting above a drained underground system. The result was something hydrologists had never documented at this scale: a continental-scale leak. The Mississippi wasn't just flowing to the Gulf anymore, it was draining into the earth. Chapter 5. When the river stops pushing back. As river volume declined, the consequences surfaced fast. In Louisiana, salt water from the Gulf began creeping upstream. Normally, the Mississippi's force keeps the ocean out, but weaker flow meant less resistance. Drinking water supplies for nearly 1 million people were threatened. The Army Corps rushed to build underwater barriers to block the salt wedge. The cost exceeded $20 million, and the fix was temporary. Barge captains noticed channels growing unpredictable. Sandbars appeared where none had existed. In 2022, over 2,000 barges were stranded. Freight rates spiked. Farmers watched profits evaporate. Fish died as waters warmed and shallowed. Mussel beds collapsed. Wetlands vanished. Migration corridors failed. This wasn't a single crisis. It was a system unraveling. Chapter 6. A regime shift with no reset. Button official reports used careful language, but the conclusion was stark. The losses are accelerating. The system has entered a regime shift, and there may be no return. Releasing more water doesn't fix it. It drains faster. Reducing pumping shifts pressure elsewhere. Rebuilding sediment layers could take centuries. Every solution runs into the same reality. The Mississippi has become something new. It is no longer a transport-dominated river. It is an infiltration-dominated system, one that drains itself, not because it failed, but because it responded logically to the conditions imposed on it. When control becomes collapse. For 100 years, engineers believed they had mastered the Mississippi River. What they created instead was a system optimized for short-term control and long-term instability. The river didn't break the laws of physics. It followed them. And now, between Cairo and the Gulf, America's circulatory system continues bleeding into the ground beneath it. The gauges are still watching. The numbers are still falling. And the question isn't whether the river will find a new equilibrium. It's who will pay the price when it does. That's it for today. I'll see you in the next video. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening, hit like, share this video, and subscribe for more deep dives like this.